We've all overstayed our welcome in bars and restaurants, picking awkwardly at our mozzarella sticks while the servers stare daggers into our eyes. But some establishments have patrons who have never left, even after centuries. There are eating establishments all across America that claim to have haunted histories, if you care to split an appetizer with an apparition. So today, we're checking out the most haunted restaurants in America, where the spirits aren't just on the menus. But before we take you to the other side, why not subscribe to the Weird History Food channel so you don't miss out on any frightfully delicious content? After that, head down to the comments and let us know what other spooky food topics you want to hear about next. All right, everyone, ready to order some ghost peppers? The New England coast is filled with numerous fish shops, and Turner Seafood in Salem, Massachusetts is no different, on the surface. The restaurant is situated in a historic structure that used to be known as the Lyceum Hall. Modeled after the well-known lecture halls of Europe, Lyceum Hall held readings, debates, and music performances. It was even the location of the first public long-distance telephone call by Alexander Graham Bell in 1877. But unless that call was to a ghost, we're not interested. The most fascinating aspect of the property's past is associated with one of the darkest periods in American history, the Salem witch trials. Before the Lyceum Hall was built in the 1840s, the property was a private apple orchard owned by Bridget Bishop. She was known around town for dressing provocatively and getting into heated arguments, which might have led residents to call her a witch. Bishop denied the accusation because witches aren't real, but her claims of innocence were disregarded. She was charged and convicted of witchcraft, becoming the first woman to be hanged during the Salem witch trials in 1692. Many people claim Bishop still haunts the property. Some even have reported seeing images of her ghost in windows or mirrors, and the smell of apples is said to linger in the air. Well, there are worse ghostly smells to have lingering around a restaurant. According to folklore, Scarlett O'Hara's in St. Augustine, Florida, played host to a deadly love triangle in the 1800s. And frankly, my dear, we do give a damn. Around 100 years before the restaurant's inception, a man named George Coley set out to build a house on the property for his fiancée, which would have been a sweet gesture if she hadn't run off with a soldier before he had a chance to complete it. Not one to sweat the small stuff, Coley fixed up his house and his love life, eventually falling in love and marrying another woman. But then, a few weeks later, Coley's body was discovered, having drowned in the upstairs bathtub. Legend has it that his first fiancée had her new man bump him off. Before the restaurant's closure in 2022, the second floor was home to the Ghost Bar, where Coley allegedly remained. He often harassed men in the restroom and splashed around at night on the property. Mineral Point, Wisconsin is home to the Walker House. Like many historic sites, the property has seen some significant changes throughout the years. What began as a small stone lodge constructed in the 1860s eventually grew into a fine dining restaurant, a luxury inn, and a pub. You might even say the accommodations are to die for, since eyewitnesses have claimed to see multiple ghosts inhabit the building. The most famous of these alleged specters is William Caffey, who was hanged nearby for murder. What makes Caffey's death so remarkable is not his crime, but the circumstances of his punishment. A crowd of thousands gathered for a picnic in front of Caffey's execution site to watch while presumably munching on cucumber sandwiches and finger foods. Hey, it's not like they had TV back then. Rumors of the Walker House haunting have been widely circulated, despite the current owner's attempt to distance themselves from the building's gruesome reputation. The property now has a few hotel options, lunch specials, and private event space. The Food Network even named the restaurant's beef pasty the best in the region, and that's worth risking even the crankiest ghost. New Orleans is frequently referred to as the most haunted city in America, and the Court of Two Sisters restaurant is a long and storied part of that history. Founded in 1726 and situated in the heart of the French Quarter, the Court of Two Sisters was home to French royal governors, Supreme Court justices, and would-be presidents before coming into the possession of Bertha and Emma Camors. Modern restaurant patrons have described seeing the sisters' ghostly images seated side by side on the patio off the dining room. But they aren't the only apparitions around. The tale of James Cooper, a previous owner of the building, makes the history of the Court of Two Sisters a little more sinister. Ghost City Tours claims the body of Cooper's wife was discovered above the restaurant, having allegedly been strangled. Cooper was charged with the crime and appeared in court, but the jury ruled him innocent. Strangely, a short time later, Cooper's own strangled corpse was also discovered in a room just above the restaurant. Maybe stay out of that room. Late-night voodoo rituals and a deadly pirate duel are also believed to have taken place in the courtyard. Luckily, the restaurant's excellent food more than makes up for its spooky atmosphere. Shaker's Cigar Box in Milwaukee, Wisconsin originally housed a Schlitz factory that manufactured the barrels used to brew beer. In the 1920s, the building was bought by Al Capone to become one of his speakeasies. With drinking and gambling on the lower floors and a brothel on the second and third, there's a lot of opportunities for restless spirits. The most well-known ghosts at Shaker's are two girls who come from quite different backgrounds. 8-year-old Elizabeth, who fell from an apple tree on the property in the 1800s, supposedly spends her days giggling in the women's restroom by sticking her tiny feet out from beneath the stalls. Sort of like a cheekier moaning Myrtle. Molly Brennan, a young sex worker from the 1920s, was found deceased in the third-floor penthouse. People who have been in her room have reported having visions of water pouring from the ceiling and burning walls, which is far scarier than the usual beer goggles. Then there's the basement. But actually, don't go down there. Since the shadow people live there, we're assuming you'd prefer to avoid running into one of their uncanny, fully formed black bodies. The Grill House in Allegan, Michigan, which was built in 1836 and resembles a barn house, has a traditional country aesthetic that feels friendly, even if it's haunted, as many claim. While the restaurant lets diners grill different pieces of meat themselves on sizable griddles, its real reputation comes from a much darker source than its menu. According to legend, a local lumberjack was fatally stabbed during a brawl on the property and was laid to rest in an unmarked grave outside. The good news is that witnesses say they've seen the lumberjack's ghost wandering about the property, and he has a welcoming vibe, like the ghost of the Brawny Man. Maybe they should consider hiring him.
He's a lumberjack and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day.
Derby, Connecticut's Twisted Vine is located in a former bank that dates back to the late 1800s. But there's something much scarier than overdraft fees going on within its walls. A terrible flood swept over the Derby area in 1955 and claimed nearly 100 individuals. Furthermore, the rising water uncovered the coffins in a nearby cemetery, bringing dead bodies to the surface like the climax of Poltergeist. The bank was one of the few buildings left standing after the flood. Thus, the basement served as a makeshift morgue while the city rebuilt. Knowing that hordes of waterlogged human corpses once floated in the same general area as you have a delicious meal is definitely a little morbid. But half of any meal out is the atmosphere. Ernestine and Hazel's may be the best dive bar in Memphis, but it has a complicated history. The two-story Labyrinthian pub was originally a church and a pharmacy, but has also served as a brothel and a jazz cafe. And according to rumors, 13 separate people met their end within Ernestine and Hazel's storied walls and stuck around for an eternal after-party. The upstairs piano starts to play music when no one is around. Steps can be heard day and night in otherwise empty rooms. Both customers and staff claim to have experienced ghostly touches, and periodically, the jukebox will start up with a disturbingly appropriate needle drop. One employee tells a story about when she and a coworker were discussing James Brown when the jukebox started playing I Feel Good out of the blue. If you're going to be haunted, you might as well be haunted by a DJ with a sense of humor. The story of White Horse Tavern in Newport, Rhode Island begins with a pair of drifters, just like pretty much every ghost story you told during sleepaway camp. In the 1720s, two men entered the pub searching for a bed for the night. The next morning, the owners discovered one dead by the fireplace while the other had vanished. Now, a ghost sits by the fireplace, daring people to explain his mysterious demise. Additionally, there have been sightings of a man with a colonial appearance in the upper bathroom, and the echoey sound of footsteps can be heard throughout the building. Although Muriels doesn't have the most horrifying story in all of New Orleans, it has witnessed some sinister acts over the course of its long history. Though the land was originally home to a humble cottage, it was eventually built into a grand mansion, which subsequently burned in a citywide fire. In the late 1700s, renowned gambler Pierre-Antoine Leparty Jordan, who could use at least 5 more names, purchased the ruined property and lovingly restored it to its former glory. Then, in a classic future ghost move, he bet the house in a poker game and lost. On the second level, close to where the seance lounges are now, he offed himself, ensuring that he'd never have to leave. Jordan apparently spends the majority of his afterlife roaming the halls. Although he seldom manifests as a full-fledged apparition, he does beat against the mansion's brick walls with enough force for all to hear. And while Jordan may be the most well-known spirit on the premises, he isn't alone. Those attuned to the spirit world believe another ghost resides in the courtyard bar and will often shatter glasses. Paranormal investigators have also heard the voice of a woman in the seance lounges. They'd probably sit down together to enjoy a delicious dinner at Jordan's designated table, which the staff provides with bread and wine each night. Just don't leave out any poker chips. That might send the wrong message. So what do you think? Are you brave enough to visit any of these haunted eateries? Let us know in the comments and check out some of these other Weird History food videos.